Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever time it is that you're joining me for this video. Thanks once again for clicking on the PenBoyRoy Fountain Pen Review channel. The subject of today's video is the Visconti Divina Bordeaux Fountain Pen. Before I get started, please check out penchalet.com and be sure to use coupon code GOODWORDS at checkout to save some extra money on all your purchases. Now, be advised, I don't make money on your purchases, but every purchase on the PenChalet website using coupon code GOODWORDS tells Ron, the owner over at PenChalet, that his money spent sponsoring this channel is being put to good use. Also, don't forget to check out the PenBoyRoy Pentertainment Podcast, where my co-host, Tom, the Odd Oink, and I yammer about the fountain pen hobby, as well as bring on other fountain pen enthusiasts to yammer with us. Just be forewarned, it's not for children. You have been warned. So I've been over the Visconti brand history in the past. If you want more detailed information, be sure to check out those reviews. The links will be in the description below. But regarding the pen in question today, the Divina Bordeaux, this pen is a trip. The concept is actually brilliant. See, the pen is designed based on the divine ratio, also known as the golden ratio. Now, what does that mean exactly? There is just no easy way to explain it, so I'm going to have to get a little mathy on you. The divine ratio can be best explained with a formula, and that formula is A plus B over A equals A over B in terms of ratio, okay? So let's say for a minute that the barrel of the pen is A and the cap is B. Then the ratio of the full pen cap, A plus B, over the barrel of the pen, which is A, is equivalent to the ratio of the barrel, which is A, over the cap, which is B. I know that sounds really confusing, but if you take the time in figuring it out, you will find that the concept of the golden ratio applied to the Divina is actually really brilliant. And then you'll say to yourself, Dante Del Vecchio had to be smoking something to have come up with this insanity. And I think it's so awesome because figuring it out does take a bit, but once it's figured out, it's so simple. Anyway, that's all I have for the background information. Moving on to the neutral zone. Those elements about the pen that are neither good or bad, or can be good or bad, depending on you. The nib is a number 6 sized 18 karat gold nib made by Bach. It has the typical decorations found on Visconti gold nibs pre-in-house nib manufacture. The breather hole is a crescent-shaped breather hole. Under the breather hole is the brand name. Under that, after some decorations, is the gold content. Then Forenza, and then 1.5 to indicate that this is a 1.5 millimeter stub. The feed is a typical Bach feed with a V on the slope of the feed to indicate the Visconti brand. The nib and feed are friction fit into an unscrewable nib unit housing. The nib unit screws into the concave section that merges into the section threads that are best described as keyed cutouts for the capping of the pen. After those threads is a sterling silver ring that is the start of the rest of the barrel. The rest of the barrel is an intricate hexagonal combination of twisting acrylic with sterling silver rods swirling through it. The end of the pen has a knob. This knob is the piston knob and needs to be pulled out to actuate the piston and then pushed back in to disengage the piston. The cap is a continuation of the design found in the barrel, with the twisting acrylic and silver rods from the cap lining up with those of the barrel. The finial is the familiar My Pen System finial. The clip is the Ponte Vecchio Bridge inspired clip with the brand name laser engraved into it. The capping of the Divina utilizes the hook lock safe system. It takes about a quarter of a turn to cap and uncap the pen and has the function of almost like a prescription pill bottle, minus the addiction. The pen was packaged in this white glossy outer sleeve with the brand name on top. Slide off that sleeve and you have newly designed shoebox style boxing with a bunch of mirrored V's all over it. Slide off the top and you have your pen resting atop a cushioned bedding inside the loudest plastic pen body bag known to mankind. Underneath the bedding is a secret compartment that hides a booklet of information on the brand, as well as other pens offered by the Visconti brand. That's all I have for the neutral zone. Moving on to the good. Those elements about the pen that are good. Let's start with the way the pen writes. I know that over the years, Visconti had its share of nibs that were not the best writers out of the box. I don't know if that has been completely resolved as of recently with regard to the nibs that are still produced for them by Bach. But what I can say is that this stub nib writes like a freaking savage. I'm not one that typically uses this kind of nib and really do prefer finer nibs, but the writing experience with this stub is just plain old fun. It really allows the qualities of the ink that I'm using to really shine, sheen, and shade. More importantly than that, the ink flow really keeps up and does its job well. I have been using this pen for well over a couple of months, and in that time, I have not experienced a single incident of ink starvation or hard starting. There was no baby's bottom or any kind of thinning of the line caused by inconsistent ink flow. The nib was reliable and worked every time without issue. I was really impressed. Now, let's move on to the aesthetic. There is so much to talk about here. I mean, this thing is a looker. This is more than a pen. This is something that belongs in a museum or something. It's just so awesome in its design and craftsmanship. And when I say craftsmanship, I'm talking a whole nother level. When it comes to making this pen, there is nothing about it that is typical or standard. Everything is done by hand and not only takes forever to make, but requires an incredible amount of waste of material to complete it. All the sterling silver rods have to be hand placed into the hand polished and shaped acrylic. Everything requires so much time and handwork that I am astonished that the pen is so precise in its final form. This thing is truly a work of art, a true product of insane amount of labor, blood, sweat, and tears. There is no one that would look at this pen and have anything else to say other than some version of wow, and justifiably so, as this pen is simply magnificent. Another thing that I really want to mention here in the good is the sterling silver appointments. When you post the cap on this pen, all the sterling silver rods line up with each other. Same goes for when you cap the pen. And I think that's really significant in that it's such good attention to detail and craftsmanship. That's all I have for the good. Moving on to the bad. Let's talk coin. This pen has an MSRP of a whopping $1,195. With retailers here in the US, such as Pen Chalet, you can score this pen for a whopping $956. Now, that is by no stretch of the imagination cheap. But if you consider the amount of work, time, and material that goes into this pen, I can honestly say that the cost to value ratio is not unreasonable. It's just highly inaccessible to pretty much almost everyone. And that's unfortunate because something this amazing and magnificent is something that everyone should experience. I want to take this time to thank the US distributors for Visconti, Coles of London, for providing me with this pen on bittersweet loan for review. That's all I have for the bad. Moving on to the ugly. Those elements about the pen that should not be, but are. This pen is so beautiful that the word ugly doesn't belong in the same sentence as the Divina. So in regard to the ugly, I've got nothing to say. It's high noon. Decision-making time. Should you or should you not pull the trigger on the Visconti Divina Bordeaux fountain pen? Listen, let's be real. This is a $1,000 pen. If you made it to a point in your fountain pen journey where you are willing to spend that much on a pen and you have that kind of scratch, I would certainly say go for this $1,000 pen over any other $1,000 pen out there on the market. But if you're someone that is not in the shoes of the type of person I just described, I say throw this on the list of super grail pens and take your time saving up for it. I think that this pen is something that should be experienced for sure. But more surely, there are many pens that are still missing from your collection that need to be experienced before this one. I hope that makes sense. I love this pen and I really want it, but I just can't have it at the moment, and I'm not entirely sure I'm willing to sacrifice all the less expensive pens out there just yet in order to get this one. So there you have it. That was my review of the Visconti Divina Bordeaux fountain pen. I hope you found it helpful. Thanks again for watching. Love you guys. Be well, be safe.